one of the things that I know is that the generation of parents that parented you, and definitely their parents, and on, that there is an overvaluing of status and profession as something that those parents brag to their friends and their parents about. So you have an entire generation of Asian and brown kids and Eastern European kids who are pushed very heavily into engineering, into medicine, into law, into the cliche things. And so this is pounded into people's heads. What I believe that does is creates an incredible vulnerability for those kids to resent their parents, to not be happy, and that's why I produce so much content about that. What it also does is when you were a student, you were on a track, you're a robot. You go up every year, you get grades, you go up, you go to bigger school, higher school, university. It's a fake game. Life is a real game. Life is a real game. So people are impatient because the first 18, 22 years of their life, every year they move up a level. It's like playing a video game. Then you get to real life. And real life is not linear like that. And those kids, even though they might have resentment or anger or have reconciled with their parents about, don't worry about other people's opinions, you just want me to be a doctor because your sister, your best friend. Meanwhile, they themselves are worried about other people's opinions. There is no reason to be impatient if you are learning every day and feel like you're on the right track. The only thing that can dictate that is outside forces, right? Because the reality is if you're happy and you feel like you're learning every day and you're on the right track, the only other parts of the world are outside opinions and the things that you physically want. Do you want a Lamborghini? Do you want a nice apartment? Do you want a watch? My argument is the faster you can get away from wanting physical items and wanting validation from other human beings that are not living your life, the quicker you lack the ability to be impatient. You have to ask yourself, and I believe the reason people want things 95% of the time is for outside validation. I'm not so sure that people want a Porsche for the Porsche or for what people think about them when they have a Porsche. And so I'm very passionate about outside voices. I think if when I hear your story of like you wanted to do this, then you were pushed this way, now you found yourself back and you're this young. And I know that people that are 27 don't think they're young because 27 you're starting to smell 30. And when you're 20, 30 feels super old. My cousin worked for my father when I finished university. I was 22, he was 30. And that, I remember the first day I walked into the store, and I've been working with him for a long time, but I remember when I was 22 and he was 30, I thought he was 1,000. 30, when you're 22, how old are you, my friend? How old? 25. When you're 25, when you're 23, when you're 22, 30 feels old, like it feels like a big number. But when you're 47, you know how laughable that is. Because at 47, I feel 25. I remember 25 like yesterday, it was the year 2000. I had to go to the store and make sure Y2K didn't break the computers. I remember the day I was his age, and when I tell you inside my stomach, inside my soul, inside my ambition, inside my dreams and hopes and wants, I feel exactly like he does. So you can imagine how not worried I am at 27, but you have to start genuinely looking yourself in the mirror and asking how much of your impatience is predicated on outside opinions. And I would argue almost all of it. The process of accomplishing it is often better than accomplishing it. I would argue for people that have pulled off making films that if we really ask them, the day of the seed of the idea is even more exciting than the day it airs. When you're a maker, the process is more enjoyable. Making it, like as a matter of fact, almost all of my most challenging days is when something I was excited about has been finished. Many think it's the day. It's when you sell it, it's when it happens, it's when you're awarded. It's not the fun part. I understand you want to make a movie, it makes sense. I'm just asking you, you don't know anything about that person's journey. You're making assumptions. And more importantly, you need to figure out, here's a good one. This is a very unique take on what you're saying. I'm curious if this is gonna bring you value. I'm gonna go in a very interesting place. Dustin, you've never heard this from me. It's something I've been thinking a lot about. I've always been fascinated by perfectionism. You know, people are like, Gary, you don't get it, I'm a perfectionist. And I always knew that wasn't true. I always knew that it was insecurity, that they were scared to put it out. That's why they were using, but saying you're insecure is not as cool as saying you're a perfectionist. But it was the same game. I've always been fascinated by people who position themselves as being tough on themselves, especially when they are quick to bring out that everybody around them always says that they're too tough on themselves, because it means that they've been effectively storytelling to the people around them that they're too hard on themselves, which is actually a very, on paper, admirable kind of positioning. I would ask yourself, when you go to sleep tonight and you think about this, are you interested in positioning yourself to the people around you as someone who is hard on themselves, or are you hard on yourself? Do you understand? It's interesting work. Yeah. You have to look inside, because I think it's a smart way to position yourself as a protection mechanism to give you time on your journey so you're not judged while you're on your journey. I thought you would. I like it too. It's something I've been thinking about.
Anyone else have a question for Gary?
Please. Please.
Sometimes people get intimidated by my facial expressions. Do you have any advice on how to approach that?
Yeah, so let me think a couple things. One, on the second one, it's, you know, I love that you are aware of that. All you need to do is act on that empathy and insight. Meaning, if you are quick to physically react, if somebody's throwing an idea out and you're like, or like whatever it may be, if you feel like that's detrimental to you, and I'm sure you're a human being, you also want to be empathetic to how it makes the other person feel, you just need to be on the offense to communicate the context. Meaning, one thing I do a lot, I'm also very intuitive, very quick. If I feel like I react to something and I can tell that it does not land, I will immediately recontextualize it in the moment. I think you need to use your words. I think you need to use your words. Your words will offset your face, but you have to be active on it. You have to acknowledge, if you're recognizing that, you need to be aggressive about that. Especially when you know you're thinking the opposite. The first thing I would tell you to do is, when you're feeling the opposite, when you're positive about something, you're excited about that, you can never leave an interaction without over communicating your enthusiasm.